Hello, my name is Brittany Boylan, and I will be sharing Teaching Grammar What Really Works by Amy Benjamin and Joan Berger. This text is really directed towards grammar instruction in the middle and high school grade levels. The text can be broken down in two parts. Part one is the fundamental things to apply. This is basic sentence structures and key ideas and different tricks to remembering parts of speech. Part two gets really into the nitty-gritty. This is embedded grammar in the writing process. This is where we introduce the writing calendar, visuals and manipulatives, and specific examples. Next, I wanted to share with you an example of a 6th grade grammar worksheet. Often grammar instruction is reduced to worksheets, just to get it out of the way. Benjamin and Berger suggest that the rush to cover it all is just that, a cover. It's not a foundation. So the text notes that students who are able to complete these worksheets aren't necessarily able to apply these grammar skills in their learning. I used to tutor a 3rd grade struggling reader who attended a school who used DLI, this daily language instruction approach. And he did all his classwork and homework and could usually describe the skill that they were working on and give an example. But when it came to the assessments, he bombed. He had an especially hard time with editing the underlined task that you can see lower, that they're asked to figure out if the word is correct, to leave it, and if it's not correct, to edit it. Daily language instruction is a decent program along with many others. It addresses lots of the grammar points, but it doesn't engage the students. It doesn't give them anything to take home. So we need to figure out another approach that is not this worksheet approach. Grammar instruction should include, like many of the best practices in phonics and other literacy instruction, very similar aspects. Visuals such as anchor charts for students to refer to for strategies and to help them sort through their writing. Hands-on activities, maybe students are moving sentence strips or pictures or cutting apart their writing pieces to edit. Creative dramatic play, this is a very student-driven process. Inductive reading, where students are really the detectives and they're solving their own problems. Problem solving and pattern finding. One thing that I noticed with the pattern finding aspect, I know many schools use words their way, where students are, as opposed to spelling practice, students are given a word sort, where they sort different words, they look for patterns, and identify those patterns. I think that this approach might be a really great piggyback for any school or district or students who have experience with words their way and already sorting words and pattern finding. The grammar calendar is created at the beginning of the year to help determine the scope and sequence of grammar instruction. Below is an example of a grammar calendar. You want to make sure that you introduce a new skill each month and then give students time to practice these skills. Each skill should build on itself. The grammar calendar is embedded. It's embedded in writing workshop and vocabulary study. Students should be practicing these grammar skills not as morning work and not as busy work, but integrated into their writing workshop mini lessons or maybe their vocabulary study. They need to create a compound sentence for the vocabulary study. I know that the text mentioned when students create a compound sentence to describe a word for vocabulary study, they tend to have a better understanding of that word than if they created a less faceted sentence. The next thing is to identify specific times when you're going to teach those skills. Very important is to allot the time. Devote time for students to proofread. Tell everyone, we are going to set the timer, you're going to spend the next 3-5 minutes proofreading your work and looking for things that you might edit, you might need to change, or make them sound better. Rewarding. Students really appreciate when you acknowledge that they're putting these skills to work either in their journals or homework or other content areas. And the last, and I think very important aspect of the grammar calendar is let your peer teachers know connecting across subject areas could be one of the most valuable aspects of this grammar practice. Let teachers know what you're working on and what they can expect from your students. I think oftentimes students leave the English classroom and they forget all those skills that they're working on, and they might write an essay in social studies and not include any of those strategies that they know, any of those checklists that they know enhance their writing. So let other teachers know of the jargon you're using, how you're helping students enhance their writing, and the different conference talk that you're contributing to your students. It's necessary to embed your grammar instruction in writing workshop. First, you must develop a scope and sequence. This is when you create a beginning of the year calendar for when you'll introduce a single sentence variation and what you'll focus on each month. Second, recursive learning. Students need to continually practice skills. They don't learn them and then retain them if they don't have this experience. Scaffolding. This is the I do, we do, you do model. First, students participate in metacognition and modeling with the student. Then they might work with a partner or a small group to practice the skill with someone to work with. Lastly, they'll work independently and grasp the ability to be able to practice each skill. Visuals and manipulatives are also a huge aspect of this approach. Engaging and multisensory lessons where students are playing games and have social opportunities really have exponential benefits to our students. I know in this class, this semester, we've repeatedly read that middle schoolers are social butterflies. They crave interaction with other peers. If we can harvest this engagement and figure out a way to help students be actively involved but also developing their own understanding of a concept, we have hit a gold mine. Anchor charts are also really helpful. It's important to help students know when to use them and how to use them, especially English as a second language and struggling readers. They might need anchor charts the most and be most reluctant to refer to them. I really liked one of the visual and manipulative examples that they gave is developing the human sentence. When students are given a sentence strip and they're asked to, as a group, form a sentence for their peers, and they present that sentence, and they move around in different ways. One student has the comma, one student has the beginning part of the sentence. It's really an active way for students to model the sentence diagramming. That is really an intricate process. Also, the use of the picture game. Students work together to write a story about a picture. I know in several of Dr. Morrow's classes, she's given us examples of these lions peering down off a cliff, and they look very intense, and it's a very steep cliff. And she asks us to read the picture and develop our ideas, among other things. And then the following picture is that these lions are really going to save another baby lion, and that it's a mama and its babies, and they must have fallen down there, and it's really this sweet picture. So I think what's important to understand is that all students can read pictures. Not all students are going to be able to read a paragraph and respond, so we need to make sure that the visuals and manipulatives are making the experience accessible to everyone. Application within the writing process. It's important to infuse writing with grammar elements. Students edit their own sentences. I think this is really important. Myself, I know I have a hard time editing my own work, and I wish I had more experience with conferencing with both peers and teachers to help edit my own sentence as opposed to going back and correcting something that was circled in red. And the last thing is authentic literature. Mentor texts are used to engage students. They experience authentic writers, and it exposes them to quality daily literature, which we know is important. I think this text could be utilized really well with Write Like This by Kelly Gallagher. I focused on this text in a Rutgers writing class with Dr. Pope. I felt like this text helped me develop myself as a writer, making more creative and clever personal pieces, and pieces that I could model to middle school students. This text helps teachers develop writing units where they're focusing on things that are involved in the Common Core state standards, such as students writing for a purpose, making an argument, citing specific texts, and modeling responding to how this text refers to their argument. Overall, I think this text would be great for new teachers, anyone looking to try a new approach where they could maybe integrate more movement aspects or a different approach to grammar. It could be integrated with a strong writing workshop. I felt like it was slow in part 1, but part 2 gave lots of example units and pizzazzed things up. The bottom line is strong writing instruction with authentic and engagement writing experiences creates not only stronger readers, but stronger test takers, standard tests included. It creates students that are able to think more deeply, and also empowered and confident students. Below you'll find some references.